Coming up on about 2 years ago, I spent about £1,500 on a gaming PC that I built myself. And I would like to think that for the amount of money that I have spent, that in normal AAA titles that are coming out in 2025, I would be able to get pretty good performance. My monitor isn't that insane. I still have the monitor that I had when I bought my first gaming PC like 5 years ago. My monitor is 1080p, 144 FPS. With spending £1,500, I would expect that I can run pretty much any game at max settings and get roughly 120 to 144 FPS at 1080p. That seems reasonable, right? I'm going to show you some examples of what games look like and how games were running 10 years ago. And then I'm going to show you some examples, current games, and what they're currently running like at max settings. Alrighty boys, so we're in Arkham Knight now, which came out back in 2015, June 2015. So this game is over 10 years old. And we have every single setting in here cranked to the maximum. They limited the FPS at 90, so I went into the file config and set it to 10,000. Anyway, let's see how she runs. Now, what I want you to focus on is not necessarily the FPS counter in the corner, because obviously the FPS counter is going to be high. It's an older game, right? But what I really want you to focus on is the reflections, because the reflections in this game, you know, everybody was bigging up Cyberpunk, but just look at the lighting and reflections in this game, right? And bear in mind that this game is a 10-year-old game. Here is a pretty good example. Look at the reflections in the water here. You can kind of see it on the side of the screen. You see how the building is reflecting into the puddles here. I would say, especially for this being a 10-year-old game, that looks pretty damn good to me. And I feel like if you told somebody that this was ray traced, a lot of them would not be able to tell the difference. Like, can we just take a second to look at this game? Look how damn good this game looks. 10-year-old game, by the way. 10 years old. We're going to move on to Cyberpunk now, and you tell me what looks better. This is max settings on Cyberpunk at 1080p. I am currently getting 36 FPS at max settings. Now let's have a look at the reflections. So we had our reflections in Arkham Knight, right? We had our reflections on the ground that we were looking at. This is path tracing. This is supposed to be the creme de la creme of lighting and reflections. Just have a look at it. This is it. This is the reflections that were hyped up so much.
What do you think, Harry?
What do I think?
Quaint.
I think this looks like shit.
For that convention.
Don't need that.
I'm getting 32 FPS at 1080p. Look at the lighting. What is this? This looks like ass. Okay, what the? All right, let's change it to ray tracing and see if there's a difference here. Ray trace reflections, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay, ray trace lighting psycho. So it's at the max ray tracing settings. Let's see what that looks like. These are the reflections for ray tracing. Right? I've gone up now to 55 FPS, so I still can't even hit 60 FPS in an indoor location at 1080p. Bear in mind, I've already explained the specs of my computer. I have a 4070 Super. You know, that graphics card cost me £600 brand new on launch, less than 2 years ago. The 4070 Super has the exact same graphical performance in games as the 5070, just for reference. Look at that pop-in. Look at that pop-in. Oh yeah. Perfect. What a great experience. Keep in mind Batman Arkham Knight's lighting as well. You know? Let's change it to the baked in reflections. So we got our ray tracing off, our path tracing is off. everything's off. Right, and let's see what we're getting now.
Untitled number 3.
Now we're getting 90 FPS. But look at the reflection. Look at the reflection. Would you not say that that reflection looks 10 times better than ray tracing or path tracing? And I'm getting double the FPS. I'm getting nearly 100 FPS right now. I'll put up on screen, side by side, those reflections. The path tracing, the ray tracing, and the normal baked-in reflections. You tell me what looks better. And look at the FPS difference between them. And let's be honest with ourselves here. Like, when you're playing the game, when you're actively gaming, what's more important? How good this little piece of reflection objectively looks on the floor, or how many FPS you're getting? Because I would never play this game at 30 FPS. Now we've got another nearly 10-year-old game. This is Rise of the Tomb Raider. This game came out in January of 2016. So in just a couple of months, this game will be 10 years old, which is kind of insane to think about. You'll see here, we've got pretty much everything on max in the graphics settings. And we're going to get into the game and see what kind of performance and what the visuals look like. And already in the menu, if we just look here, like the visuals look very, very good. No ray tracing, no bullshit. We'll start at the benchmark here. Keep in mind, this game is 10 years old. And just take a look at the visuals and think about what you saw in Cyberpunk. Damn, I've never run this benchmark before. This is nuts. Getting less than 100 FPS. So overall score was just under 140 FPS, and that is with everything maxed out completely. And this is a 10-year-old game, and you just have to have a look at the visuals, you know. And you tell me, how far have we come in 10 years? Alrighty boys, next up I've got Doom Eternal, and this one is interesting because we've had the new Doom game come out recently called Doom the Dark Ages, and I don't know if any of you have played it, but if you have, you will notice that the performance is very significantly worse than Doom Eternal, whilst I would say objectively looking worse. You'll see here, I've got the video settings. I've got everything cranked. The only things I've turned off is HDR, just because I hate the way that it looks. And obviously I've got my motion blur turned off. What you'll see here now is I've got ray tracing turned on. So we're going to compare with and without ray tracing in our frame rates. In this particular room, we're getting around 220 FPS currently. Is what we're getting. This is cranked max 1080p with ray tracing turned on. Now if we look at the reflections, just take a mental note of what the reflections look like on the ground, and we're going to turn ray tracing off. Look at this reflection here. Look at the way the light cascades from this doorway. Just look at that for me, and let me turn ray tracing back on. I'm going to put these two side by side. I'm going to go over the reasons why games objectively, in my opinion, look worse than they did 10 years ago, while also running 10 times worse than they did 10 years ago. This is the graphics card I have that I bought back in January of 2024. I bought this graphics card. When it first came out, I bought it on launch day, and I spent £590 on launch day. Now, the price has come down a little bit since then. We're going to go over the main culprit of why games run so horribly. And there's a couple of them, but one of the biggest reasons is this guy. Unreal Engine 5 has absolutely ruined game optimization on PC. Back in the day, developers had to specifically tweak every single aspect of their game to make the game run on, back then, 10 years ago, what was not so great hardware. A developer would have the target of performance that they wanted to hit on a certain piece of software. So let's say like a PlayStation 4 or whatever. They would have to specifically put in and take out different little bits of texture, shadows to hit the target of performance that they wanted to hit. And if they weren't getting there, then that texture was just not going to make it in the game. And they had to do so many little workarounds to make a game look reasonably good. Now, we basically have tons of AI BS that does all the work for you. And what that basically means is that developers become lazy. Developers will just use the AI tools that are built into Unreal Engine 5, and they'll use all the pre-made assets and all the pre-made lighting abilities that they have within the game engine, and they'll just tack it all on there. And that's fine. You know, the game will probably look great. But the issue is once you tack on all these things and use all these tools within the game engine, the games end up running like complete dog shit. And ironically, they don't even look that much better for it because they are so poorly optimized. What I would say is the second biggest reason that games are running like shit now is ray tracing. This is a brilliant invention that NVIDIA came up with, and you'll probably remember around the launch of the 20 series that NVIDIA basically rebranded the whole lineup of their graphics cards to be ray tracing. Our graphics cards went from GTX to RTX, and there was this whole massive thing around ray tracing is the future. Everything's going to fucking revolve around ray tracing now. And it's funny because I'll put a direct comparison of what games look like with and without ray tracing and the performance impact on the games. The reality is that we just do not have the technology yet. Like, the technology is just not there. The technology itself is way too far ahead of the actual hardware that we have. That's the issue. The technology is there. The hardware has not caught up to it yet. I'd say the technology is about 5 years ahead of the hardware that we have. So what ends up happening is your performance basically gets cut in half for the reflection in the water to look slightly different. There is no way that any gamer who is definitely semi-competitive, but also just wants a smooth experience, is going to turn ray tracing on, you know? I have owned my graphics card for nearly 2 years now, and I would say it's in the mid-tier of ability to ray trace. Have I ever used ray tracing? A couple of times. Definitely in certain games like Doom Eternal, where there's not a massive difference in performance that I can personally notice because the frame rate is so high with and without ray tracing anyway. Yes, there's a big hit to performance, but I don't notice because I'm still getting over 240 FPS anyway. But outside of that, most games, I'll go from getting like 144 FPS, 120 FPS down to like 60. And if I've got a high refresh rate monitor, I do not want to play at 60 FPS. So 90% of the time, maybe even more, 9 out of 10 games, I will never turn on ray tracing even though I could, just because the game goes from being smooth to having slightly better like shining in the puddle. And then my frame rate is halved. It just makes zero sense. Like, why would any normal person turn that on? That just makes no sense. And then all of our graphics cards are branded around this. Oh, the ray tracing performance. Oh, the AI performance. Nobody actually cares. If you're a gamer, you don't give a about any of that shit whatsoever. It all comes back to capitalist greed. The problem is now is it's not like it was, 20 years ago, where the main thing is people were just trying to figure out something new. How can I make a new, interesting game that will potentially sell well because it's new and interesting, right? Now, most big game companies are owned by venture capital investment firms, and their main prerogative is that every quarter you're making more money than you did last quarter. And what that essentially means is that developers are going to put way less time and effort into something because they just want to get it out as fast as possible. They need to churn out the next thing because in the next quarter, they need to make even more money than they did last quarter. So it just leads to like this really aggressive development cycle. And it's exactly what we saw with Cyberpunk, where it was like, so I wouldn't even say it was half-baked. It was like not even cooked. It was like a raw egg. You know, there was just nothing going on there. The game didn't even run on the base Xbox and the base PlayStation. And they just threw it out there because they needed to satisfy the pre-orders, you know? They just threw it out there because their investors were saying, okay, we need to make some money now. You know, you've been promising this game for like 7 years. We need to make some money now. So they just threw out a game that wasn't ready to be out at all. And we've seen that with so many games now. Even Skate. Skate disappointed me so much. That game looks like total garbage and is basically just a farm for cosmetics. All they want you to do is spend 20 quid on their terrible shit skins that they have in the game. And basically what they've done is just hijacked a loved franchise from the 2000s, and they've just tried to shove as many microtransactions in there as possible. They basically just farmed money off of a lazy game. That shit looks like the metaverse. It looks horrendous. I don't know why anybody would play that game. It looks terrible. I played it for like 5 hours and I just had to turn it off because I was so sick of it. The ghosting that happens around your leg when you're moving on the skateboard is ridiculous. It's like there's 5 legs beside your leg. It looks so bad. And then people will make the argument, oh, it's free to play, blah, 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 blah. Nah. Nothing is free. They're trying to upsell you to buy skins, and there's probably some inbuilt system for to monitor you because it's EA, right? They're probably farming your data off your PC. So it's not free. There's no such thing as free, especially in the world we currently live in. You can take a look here. Things like Serena Capital. So we got a list of the top gaming investors. All these investors, right? Their main prerogative is not, oh, let's make great games and then we'll probably end up making some money off of those great games. They don't just invest in gaming, these firms. They invest in lots of different things, right? So their main prerogative is making as much money as possible. They could not give a shit that a gamer has paid 60, 70, even 80 quid now for a half-baked trash game that was thrown together in a super short development cycle just to make money. They don't care. Because at the end of the day, we bought it. So they got the money. And now it's on to making the next half-baked terrible thing. And it's the same with NVIDIA. NVIDIA will release new hardware every year. You know, they'll do their normal release and then they'll do their like super series release a year later. And then they'll do the like next gen release after that. And it's just a constant, okay, here's the new thing. Here's the next thing that's going to barely run your half-baked game. You know, and every year they become more expensive as well. Boys, you have been showing some serious love on the videos and I really appreciate it. Right now, we're at 399 subscribers and I hate begging for subscribers, but if we get 500 subscribers, we can get monetized, right? So you can see my watch hours, right? Nearly at 3,000. So we're this close to getting monetized. So if you boys genuinely enjoy the content, if you don't, that's fine, don't subscribe. But if you genuinely enjoy the content, please subscribe because we're keeping at this. But if I could get monetized, then that would definitely be a big incentive for me to make more videos in the future. So I do really appreciate it. I appreciate it. Take care. If you need a custom PC built for your exact budget, look no further than SVG PCs. Head to our website and fill out the form with your budget and what games you want to play, and we will build you a custom rig that works best for you. Alternatively, if you want to build your own rig and you want some advice, you can hop on a call with us and we can advise you on what parts to buy and how to put it all together. Add our Discord down below if you want to chat to a community of like-minded PC gamers, and like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Colin from SVG PCs out.